Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 6th of March, year 2024. Let me get started on introducing you to the panel. We have April here, who has been on our panel for quite a few years. She's a psychic, she's a medium, she has quite a few modalities of healing under her belt. And welcome, April. Thank you for joining. We are grateful to have you here. And then we have Patricia, who's part of our core group of meditators. Good evening, Patricia. Sri Lakshmi has joined us online, and I see you coming back online. So we should be seeing you shortly. And then we have Joseph with us over here. Good evening, Joseph. April, before I go tag everyone, do you see the question actually, before I start with the question, I want you to talk about the workshop that you have on the 17th of March, right? You have a workshop, and then do you see the question that Summer asked, which is the continuation of the children under war? I'll let you read it as well, and I'll go ahead if you want to start about the workshop. Thank you.
Yeah. So me and Kelly, who are come on this panel every once in a while, we're hosting a workshop on March 17th. It is for the spring equinox, for that portal that is opening for those energies. But we have focused this workshop on creating, like the wintertime, we go within and we look inside and we start seeing changes that we want to make. And then we have the famous New Year's resolution, right? That we tell ourselves we're going to do this year. So we have all these kinds of dreams and goals and desires and wants. So the spring equinox is a time to help make those come to fruition, manifest and create those. But what happens is we have our shadow and our egos that tend to get in the way. We have our patterns, we have our thoughts, and all these things tend to get in the way. So the workshop is going to focus on learning how to cope with the shadow, cope with your emotions, how to stop your thoughts, how to control them, and then also how to use your body to do all of that, how to know your body, how to see when you're out of alignment, and then having practical everyday tools to deal with your shadow, your emotions, to accomplish your goals, to manifest, to keep yourself in alignment. So it's going to be amazing. It's going to be fun, and we've got a lot of information that we're going to try to pack into 2 hours. I have a feeling it's not going to work, that we're going to definitely be going over. But our main focus really is not just the healing and the ascension and manifesting. We really want to bring you everyday life tools that you can use to stay in alignment, to heal, to move forward. So that is the workshop. It's at, if you're in Eastern, it's 1 p.m. Central is noon. And that's what we'll be doing. Let me look at the question here for tomorrow.
So Summer was online with us. So thank you for joining, Summer. And Michelle has joined, Michelle Hunter. So here's Summer, where she says, I really enjoyed the panel discussions. And my question was, do children of war recover mentally after seeing so much violence? Or is that ingrained so deeply into their minds? But I think they also see a lot of love from other families taking them in if they are orphaned. Just like in Africa, the kids are so happy if they have a ball to play with, a special treat to share, pure joy and happiness. I also really like what April said, that better psychiatrists, teachers, and doctors, etc., will come out from this,
Mhm.
but mostly better politicians. So go ahead, April, if you want to speak to it is a continuation, and that's why I tagged you, like I messaged you because I knew the question was going to be a continuation of last
yeah.
time's war question. So how do children, and especially since you treat people who have gone through trauma and may have childhood trauma, right? In your personal experience, in your
Yeah.
work
It's
life.
it's
Thank
different
you.
so it's different for everybody. We can't say that, all of these children will absolutely recover. I can't promise you that. What I do know is that these events that happen like this do end up becoming big teachers. That's not that we want it, but they do become big teachers to the planet as a whole, as in, we need to stop this. We need to stop doing this, that everybody is one, that we are all one, that we're all worthy. We all need love and support. We need to quit fighting over pieces of land, right? But a lot of these wars, what you need to understand is they go much deeper, and they've been going on for a long time, years, decades. This didn't just happen last week or last month. This has been years of things building. So, but as far as the children go, every person is different because everybody has a different background. They have different families, different dynamics, cultures. Each person has their own genetic makeup. So I have my 5 girls, right? And from day one of them is a crier. They're just a crier. They're still crying. They cry today. They still cry, right? I have another one, doesn't ever cry, never cries. I literally have one right now, still doesn't cry. Even if there's a funeral, that child does not cry. So everybody has their own genetic makeup as well, their own character, their own composition. There will be some people that may not fully recover. Just like when I do therapy, I may talk to somebody and somebody just kind of picks up on it real quick. They apply the skills and they move right along. And then there's other people that it just takes them a while to integrate, to understand, and to implement. So we can't give you a blanket statement. What I can say is, though, that I do believe that there will be some of these children and some of these people coming out of this that will end up being, for humanity. They will end up doing really good things for humanity because of this tragedy. So, let me see. Oh, what is the date of the session? Oh, Joseph, there is the session is March 17th. It's at 1 p.m. I can put the link in the chat. Yes. Oh, you'll share it to the group, Luna? Okay.
I put the link in the chat already.
Oh, you did?
Here, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that's for that. Tamara is really bothered by here is the link for the event. I put it in the chat. She's really bothered by the war. And it's not that I'm not bothered by the war or other people aren't. But what's happening is she's identifying with a lot of the pain that's happening. And that's why when we talk to her, we're trying, not that we're ignoring the pain or that it's not real, but we're trying to refocus the energy. And that's why in the beginning of this, she's saying, I sent love to them and food trucks and rebuilding, right? And the more that people do that, everything is energy, and energy doesn't have any bounds. and you can send energy across the planet. And if enough of us do that, we can affect the outcome. There was a study done where it was, don't quote me on this, on how many people, but I believe it was 3,000 people. Was it 3,000 people? They asked 3,000, it might have been more than that, people to meditate in this one town, this one state. It was like a state for us in America, but it was one town. And they weren't experienced meditators either. And they just asked them to meditate on peace, on love, on happiness. And they studied this town, and crime rates dropped by 0.75%. So it was over half. The study shows that the crime rate dropped. So if enough of us did this, we could affect the situations over there. So
You are incredibly amazing. Thank you so much, April, for that. Always eternally grateful for the insights. I know Dr. Joe Dispenza at the end of Becoming Supernatural talks about Project Coherence, which is, again, these type of events that you're talking about. He also in September, I think, was it September? Yeah, September, we did a walking meditation, and the HeartMath Institute had taken, they are actually devices that do the measurement of consciousness across the planet. And the day that we did the walking meditation, they could see, like, the graph, that how much the vibrational energy rose, right? Just out of one walking meditation of 100,000 or maybe 120,000 people. I think Patricia participated, Michelle, who used to attend the Facebook Live, she participated, Lakshmi participated. So just imagine, like, at one time, 100,000 people in meditation, in a meditative state, right? It makes a difference. It's just that if 100 million of us were able to do it, we probably would bring that shift in consciousness, right? And let me look at the question. The other thing she was saying, how do children of war recover mentally after seeing so much violence? Or is that ingrained so deeply into their mind?
yeah, so that's the part where I'm saying we can't say, which children or if all of them will recover. And some children will be affected differently than others. Some, it will be a true tragedy. But you also have to think of, like when you were a child and there was a death in the family. For many children, not all, it doesn't affect them as much. I remember when some older grandparents had passed when I was younger, and everybody was terribly sad, but I really wasn't that sad. And I felt bad because I wasn't that sad, but it was because I was a child. I didn't see it in the same way. I didn't feel it the same way, right? So some of them, it may be so ingrained, but it definitely won't be all of them.
So if you look at, like, trying to connect what we talked about 2 weeks ago, these souls that seem like children, right? We see a child's body, and we what we need to do is not look at a child's body. We have, what we need to actually know is this is a soul that is signing up to come in and experience that violence for whatever reason. The reason may be to be that statistic that contributes to compassion in the world, right? Because what if they become, like, if they pass away, then we're going to go, oh, 100,000 children passed away, or 200,000 children passed away. in this event, right? Like they use the Israel's the Hamas attack on Israel in when did it happen in October? They say 3,000 people were affected, or like we say 9/11, right? Whatever, 3,000 people were affected. Look at that statistic, and just because of the statistic, how much it affects us, right? That, oh my God, these many civilians were affected by this action, right? So instead of looking at it and saying, oh, they're mentally, now they're going to be mentally damaged for life. No, this soul signed up for that lesson. That soul signed up to say, oh, in this lifetime, I am going to experience this level of violence. And I am going to transcend, I am going to learn how to, that souls, if anybody wants to learn of how we experience life, not even in this dimension, multidimensionally, how we experience life, and each life, whether it is in another dimension or whether it is in this third dimension. And when I say read The Convoluted Universe by Dolores Cannon, and y'all will understand how each soul, whether they were a robot in the previous lifetime, whether they were an animal in the previous lifetime, whether they were hermaphrodite in the previous lifetime, how they experienced that lifetime and why did they experience that lifetime. She is like the perfection of how you will understand why this soul took place. Right? In that lifetime, what suffering did that soul, whether they were a robot in that lifetime, and what suffering, like there's one in Convoluted Universe, Dolores Cannon explains a person in this present lifetime that is going to a past lifetime where they were a robot and they were kicked around, like they were, people just punched them and kicked them, right? And what did that person experience? The humiliation that that person experienced, that soul experienced in that previous lifetime. So why did that robot experience? It's the same thing with this situation, that this child has experienced this type of violence because they want to experience this type of violence and learn to transcend it, right? Now we see, will they transcend it in this lifetime, or will it take a few more lifetimes for them to transcend it? Right, April? Because what Dolores Cannon says is people who really, really suffer, like people who, like we say, oh, these people have PTSD. Like I remember there was one person in our group that talked about being raped, and like she already had a relationship with 40 men by the time she was 12. A lot of this exploitation of the woman's body, right? And now that they're 40, 50, 60 years old, they're transcending that, right? But that person that has been through that level of trauma, what Dolores Cannon says is there's like a hospital, like there's a space once we go to the other realm where our soul is nurtured and it comes back to wholeness. Like if you're that broken as a soul, then there is a repair in the other dimension. So just to see it in this light that, oh, this soul, this child is experiencing this violence. What do you say about that, April? Like, just like we gave the example of Hitler, that Hitler was put in isolation on the in the other realm, right? Even though whatever he had done. So each soul is going to go through their own repair, and there is a mechanism for every soul to ascend to the whatever, 8th dimension, 9th dimension, how many ever dimensions they're all in their evolutionary cycle. Each soul is on its evolutionary cycle of getting to that 8th, 9th dimension. April, I'll let you talk about it.
So it almost like where I'm getting stuck is where she's stuck, is why she's stuck. But it's almost like you're focusing on the pain and the loss and the negativity, which then causes you to be sad, causes you to feel down, brings your energy down, which doesn't feel good. And that's where I keep getting stuck with this with hers, like why she's stuck. It almost feels like either there's some part of her that resonates with this, so she's experienced it, or she knows it, or maybe she knows it in a past life. The thing is I had this conversation with a client today. You can't live somebody else's life for them. You can't take on somebody else's pain for them. You can't heal somebody else for them. They are here as a soul on their own journey, and you cannot learn their lessons for them, no matter how bad you want to. They have to live out their lessons because they are living out their life, their lesson, their experience in their own way, in their own body, in their own soul, in their own perspective. And then once this lifetime expires, that soul takes all that information that it's gathered, that it's gathering in your cells, in your DNA, back to source. It takes it back to source when you leave. And then that evolves us as a whole. It not only involves your soul, but it evolves the whole. You can't save somebody else from their experience. You can't. You're not supposed to. Does that mean you don't help? No. Does that mean you don't send water? You don't send food? You don't feed the stray cat? Does that mean you don't do those things? No. But to take on that pain and suffering as yours, you're not meant to do that. That is not what you're meant to do.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Hey, April, that happened to me. Like when a friend of mine was addicted, with the alcohol, and you work with them, and we always say it in the spiritual world, and even on all kind of therapies and whatever, you got to put the work in, And I, for 3 years, was basically running this guy's life, and I rebuilt this guy. From nothing to 100 grand in the bank. I was running his life, and I called this friend of mine. She was a drug counselor, and because he relapsed again, I was like, okay. I told her, I said, you know what? I'm devastated, man. I'm going down there and I'm working this guy over. And I said, I'm going to beat his ass. I was just like losing it, right? This is before Eckert, guys. This is with the ego. But man, I was irate, and I said, I'll be honest with you. She says, what's that? I said, I'm devastated. She goes, well, how do you think he feels? I stopped and thought, oh yeah, I'm making this all about me, right? So she says, look, I can't believe you're still messing with this guy. His bottom was in jail. He got 4 DWIs in 10 days. You can imagine that. But all over a girl, this rocky relationship. Anyways, so when she said that, he's got to find his own bottom. I'm telling you, man, it felt like 1,000,000 pounds came off of me. I called him up. I said, hey, man, I told him what I told you guys, going down to whip his ass and all this other stuff. And I said, look, I said, you get sober, you can call me 2 weeks. Other than that, do not call me. We're done. You got to be a man. You got to put the work in. You got to live your pain. You have to do whatever. And maybe Samara, that's who you were talking about with these people. She's taking on their pain, just like I was taking on that guy's pain, and it goes back to, like, say, we were talking the other night about the anxiety, that's something in the future that hasn't happened, or it's out of your control, so there's nothing that we can do sitting here. Other than send good energy, but to feel their pain for them, you know, they, if you want to know what's going to happen in the future, well, like you said, I mean, who knows? You're looking on the positive side. The negative people say, well, you're just going to make more terrorists because they're going to get revenge. And then
Mhm.
so here we are. That's been happening for thousands and thousands of years. And there's a lot of stuff that's happened in the past that we don't even know about. How brutal the religious wars are the worst. They really believe in what they're doing, and they'll rip you apart, you know. So
Yeah. And I think that's true that, that's so true. And the creating the anxiety, the worry of the future of these people. No, 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 that is not what we do. And it is interesting to me that in a sense, she is making herself sad
well,
Mhm.
over
it
this, right? Yeah, it's
was
It's like our pain body locks into their pain, and our pain body is feeding off their pain energy. So we are
mhm,
feeding our pain body by thinking those thoughts. And I feel, if you're Jewish, I'm sure the Jewish media has pictures of whatever happened. So I have not looked at the video or any information about what happened in October in Israel, whenever that event happened, right? The MASH, whatever event happened. But people say it was horrific. But I'm sure it is splashed all over Israel's, any Jewish community, anybody in the Jewish community across this world or a supporter of Israel is going to have that all over their media, right? Like on their social media, they're going to have all that fed to them all across, like emailing, whatever, right? This information is constantly being sent to them. The same thing if you're Palestinian, you're going to see pictures of children in rubble. They're like all dirt all over them, like as though they're this thing, but you don't know how that child is actually, I've heard of so many children that when they have that kind of an experience, they go outside their body. Like Tyler Perry talks about the trauma he experienced as a 6-year-old or 8-year-old, right? He said he just went out of his body and he used to imagine other things. Like he would write another story, and I know I did that. I would sit and read books, and like while my mom was having that trauma didn't, like whatever was going on around me did not affect me, because I was outside my mind. I mean, I was outside. My mind was somewhere else. It was not in that present, whatever trauma was going on in the present moment. And just to give an example, I know Joseph one day during group meditation talked about, like if you're eating from a kerosene stove, and I got reminded of this. And if someone wants to know, we were so poor that we lived in a house that had one bedroom. So my brother, myself, and my mom had cots in the same bedroom, right? In the same one single room, the three of us slept. The roof had tiles that used to have holes in them. So when it rained, it would leak literally above, like while I was lying down, it would leak on top of me. We did not have a kitchen. She had a big wooden table with 2 kerosene stoves. We didn't have gas, like, cooking gas that everybody's so used to, or electric stove that everybody so enjoys here, right? There was no gas. There was just kerosene stove. This lady, she cooked every day for us, breakfast, lunch, dinner, on the kerosene stove. We bought kerosene, we cooked everything on kerosene stove, and we lived. She would cook on a table, like a wooden table, and that was our kitchen.
yeah, poor people really don't know that they're poor.
And I was so happy. I mean, poor people don't understand. Like people who are actually kids, when we are suffering like that, I was in my own world, enjoying my going to school, enjoying being with my friends. I mean, we survived. Like whatever The trauma is we survive, and that is the transcendence, right? I mean, I was suicidal like at 11 or 12. I kind of like wanted to commit suicide, but you overcome it and then you become something else. Look, 30, 40 years later, what happens to you? You start following Eckhart Tolle, you start following Dr. Joe Dispenza, you start knowing what the reality of it is. It's no longer the Poonam that suffered, like a mom that was like another Nazi this thing, right?
Yeah, them kids are all grown up now. I mean, what happened to them? You see, I
Right.
mean, like they did we hear anything that happened to them? That the reason it looks horrible now is because of social media. See,
Exactly.
they didn't have that back then in the Holocaust.
No,
It was just
no,
as
but
ugly.
exactly. Nobody saw any of that, right? Nobody saw any of what, I mean, there's so many people in slums. There's so many people in projects here. There's so many people in like there are so many poor areas in America, right? Where people are really the same scenario that I'm explaining of what I experienced as a child. So many people experience it and they over, that's my test as a soul. Okay, go ahead, experience all of that and see if you can transcend it and become something different. Joseph, you were saying something. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say, all of it collectively is about a mind process. It's about how we perceive. It's about the story that we tell ourselves. And to touch on what April was saying and how we keep coming back to being, how do we get hooked on sadness? I'm facing this now and I've been blessed on the journey inside. To me, in my view of this, is that, in my theory, is that there's a perception in early childhood, infancy, during birth, that creates and participates in creating a logic or an assessment, a meaning of this life in this world in a child who has to do it for themselves because no one's there to do it. In meeting the obligations and the demands to survive. So the children in the war situation are going to be faced with a whole lot more critical thinking and adjustment than a child maybe here in the States, in a more affluent neighborhood or better surroundings or material surroundings. But the point I'm getting at to talk to is about how we get stuck. What is it that all of us eventually, in all these different scenarios, situations, whether you're an addict on Kensington Avenue in Philadelphia, or if you're in war-torn, if you're on the Gaza Strip, what's going to happen down the road eventually for you to process, and how is that going to look? And some of the things I come to in my own view, as I was saying, was there's a thought process, a logic that can be self-deprecating or repeating or keep us stuck, but it's a part of a program in our minds, in our thinking, that we adopted, and we came to conclude this as a child, and it's wired in us. So these feelings, being sad, ruminating, all this has to do, to me, with liberating not only ourselves, whatever hurt might be inside that we experienced that needs to be liberated, heard, expressed. But when we pick it up on others who are going through the same thing, similar things, that's what compounds it. And going through recovery, I do the same thing. I was pulling on others as my own, others' energy, others' suffering, others' pain. I can relate to that because I had some of that too, but then that would become yours. It would become bigger, and then you'd stay there. You get kind of stuck in that place, in that mood created by that energy, that funk. It became an identity. How and why do emotions and feelings become our identity? And that, for me, is kind of where I'm walking through now. And to me, it has to do with beliefs. It has to do with how somewhere in my past as a child, I made this association or multiple associations that became distortions. And so now it has me ruminating, or it has me looping, or it has me enjoying the negative or the sadness. There's some kind of association that has to be undone. And that's the supernatural forces, the life forces that are happening now, because I've experienced some of those. The supernatural undertakings to help you undo distortions. And it's very beautiful. It's very remarkable. Anyway, thank you for letting me share.
Thank
So
you, Joseph.
it is our programming. Yes, it is your programming. The programming happens between ages of 0 to 7, and actually even before age 0. And it can also happen at different times in life. I've seen other people, I've been doing this for like a long time, and I've seen people that were fine until they were 17 or something. So I have seen it happen at later times in life, but there is programming that happens. There are series of events that happen. You do create a belief, you do create a perception that then becomes your programming. It becomes the software you are running off of. So then that does change the way you see, view, understand, perceive the world. It will put a tint on the world for you in your way. The way to break it is, one, to understand it, but you have to do your shadow work. You have to go in and, where did I get this belief? Why do I have this belief? How did I pick it up? And then you have to do some sort of resolvement, so some sort of healing on those spaces. And then once you do the healing, then becomes the reprogramming, because we've already healed this space. We don't need to keep revisiting the space, but the mind and the program will want to revisit it often. It will keep trying to bring it back up. But once you know that you really have healed that space, that is where you stop the mind and you say, no, we're not going there. We've already done this. We've dealt with this. We're not doing that. That's where the reprogramming comes in. And that is, many people are stuck because they haven't found the root cause. They haven't found their root belief. So they keep reproducing it. So for this person, for example, perhaps there is a pattern of sadness, or a pattern of, I should be sad, or I need to be sad over something, because that is a pattern that they have had, or a pattern they observed. So
Maybe it was, I'm sorry, maybe it was a belief that they conjured as an infant or a toddler, that to be sad was to be part of, to fit in, it was to be safe. Maybe there was security in sadness.
Right. Yeah, because there is a theory out there that whatever we do it because it benefits us in some way. Even if that means you're the doormat and people walk all over you, you're doing that because in some way you feel like that benefits you. Otherwise you wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and some depressed people, they'll stay in that zone. If they got happy for a second, they'd already start getting cold shower, warm shower. All right, if they're sitting in a cold shower and they get into a warm shower and it feels good, oh, I love this. They start getting depressed in that nice warm shower because they know they got to go back where they're most comfortable. And the most comfortable is what I'm saying is where, like that level of sadness that Joe was talking about. You keep circling back, isn't that what you said, Joe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that was like, you can have this belief that sadness is the safe place. You trip yourself. Eventually, you don't know you're doing it. In other words, my way of dealing with my malcontent is the way I cope with not facing reality or being able to process reality. The harshness, the cruelty, or the anger. I'm finding this in myself as a child. For example, I'll share this personally with you. When the experiences and traumas I had gone through, some of my hiding or survival thinking was depression. And it can be depression. In other words, it was I was saddled with something I couldn't comprehend. I couldn't control. I had nothing to do. I was a very young child, and the depression was part of a way of tuning it out, and it became a go-to just because
Yeah.
well, I can't change these circumstances, and I have a busy mind, so the best thing to do is just tune out, and get sad or and you don't realize that's happening. You don't realize that depression can be part of a survival, can be an addiction. Sadness can be an addiction. So it's working through the beliefs that you're acknowledging a child or a way of belief that exists that you as the adult now see and can adjust. You can console that child. You can console. You're processing and liberating the emotions to release the need, or to release the depression, or to release that belief. You're reprogramming the belief, because you can say, stop doing that now. You don't have to. There's no need to do that now. And in that moment, there's some liberating, there's some freedom. I feel it just by saying that.
Mhm.
And I think that's the programming is some of why we keep repeating, or we get stuck in these places. I'm having that conversation today about, it's like the chicken or the egg, the thought or the feeling and emotion. Which comes first? Or what
Thought.
what does each produce?
It's a thought. The thought always comes first because we always get energy first. Because we have an energy body and we have the auric field. And if you look like the heart math institute and the heart brain connection, the information actually hits your energy field first and actually goes to the heart first, then the brain. So your energy gets it first. We sometimes think that the emotion comes first, but it really doesn't. There's a like instantaneous thought. The thought goes to the brain creates the emotion. The nervous system creates the emotion, which is the chemicals, the hormones. There's always a thought first. So if you have an accident, the thought is, oh God, or I'm going to die. That's a thought. It's instantaneous, and that floods the body with the chemical. There's always the thought first.
What you just said, the shock the shock of, oh my God, it is an accident. To me, the shock of the sudden realization. For me, that transition has been there's stuff in that transition. I mean, there's stuff that has to be expressed in that transition. When I was doing the work and discovering how the transition from calm peace to all of a sudden shock, you're gasping, you're out of breath, you're breathless. In that gap, in that transition, there's information, there's suffering, there's beliefs, and there's trauma. And I had to go there, and I was in those places deeply, and to relieve some of that. But I'm still struggling with it. I still have something in my programming that has to be redone, untwisted, straightened out, some of the logic.
The only way to undo it, Joseph, is to, like Eckhart says, right? We have to bring ourselves into stillness.
Mm-hmm.
And to bring ourselves into stillness, we have to take up some kind of presence practice. Like Patricia started doing Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations. We need to take some meditative practice, Qigong, yoga, something that brings us into presence. Because only the light of consciousness will dissolve all these patterns, will dissolve all of these limiting beliefs, will dissolve all of these assumptions that we built as a child. Like he was talking about his friend that wouldn't give up on his alcohol addiction. It's just like the mind is telling them a story, and they are using that story to continue their addiction. And now it has become like a chemical addiction as well, because now that you've had enough alcohol in your body, now you have enough heavy metals in your body, you've increased the tendency to be addicted. They've indulged in it for so long, right? that now they have, it's just a tendency, like biologically, now the tendency is to be addicted, right? That takes a lot of energy to overcome. Like to break that entanglement, it takes a lot of energy to overcome that.
If I can add something to that, to your point, and I'm going to add one more, another layer to that, and that is
Yeah, as soon as you add, we're going to go to Patricia, Joseph, since she hasn't spoken. So
Sure.
go ahead. Thank you.
it's the area, it's another layer to me, the whole process is layer by layer by layer. There's all these different layers to uncovering what we need to do, but it's the titillation. In other words, the titillation as pleasure, as a source, as a soothing mechanism for chaos or for torment or for backwards feelings and emotions, backwards beliefs. There's a whole area where our early programming about what's normal in relationship with our parents and our siblings and community, if any of that is irregular or backwards or upside down or kind of flipped over upside down and then turned inside out, however you want to look at it, that's a whole other area for addiction, because there's an uncomfortableness about emotional energy and processing feelings and thoughts and all these different things, especially for children who were raped, who were molested, or even just emotional, just covert emotional incest. There's like a whole area of addiction just to avoid accepting the untoward or abhorrent nature of some of those kinds of experiences.
But you have to realize again that soul, if you keep repeating the story, it becomes a victim identity, Joseph. But if you disentangle from the story, right, and get to the nuts and bolts of it, it's a soul that came up, signed up for that lesson. Mm-hmm. Yes, the 6-year-old went through the molestation, or the 6-year-old went through the incest, or the 6-year-old went through whatever action, right? Just like I was saying before, this person in our group, by the age of 12, 40 men, already had relationships with 40 men, was raped, molested as a child. But that is the soul's lesson. And now the soul has to learn, how am I going to overcome that? Why did I have all these spiritual teachers in the form of 40 men by the age of 12? Right? Why did I have this unconsciousness come towards me? What am I here to learn as a soul? And the lesson we are here to learn is unconditional love. Now can I experience all that I experienced, the physical abuse, the mental abuse, if it's sexual abuse, after I experience all of that, now can I transcend that?
Yes. Can we flip back? Now can we become right?
Right.
Exactly. Yep.
Part of what you're talking about too is rewiring the nervous system so that the nervous system doesn't recreate these same scenarios. So that is part of the process as well, is rewiring the nervous system. Right?
Yes.
So yeah,
I've been talking to Patricia for about like 3 or 4 weeks. It's been a month of are you gonna wire those neurons again, the old self, or are you gonna rewire and no longer wire those neurons? Go ahead, Patricia. Thank you.
That's a great question. It's very empowering to understand that we chose, as a soul, on the soul level, that we chose whatever circumstances exactly, the parents and the lessons, the country, the body, every single thing about this life situation for us is specifically designed and was agreed upon, and every soul in our life we have the contract with, right, April? So In the other dimension, we agreed to have that. Now, what gets tricky for me still is the fact that I chose this, but in that very moment, I'm suffering and I don't know how to get out of it because I still have this vehicle of the body that is addicted to hormones of stress. And, it's just pulling me back in that old programming. So it takes grace to stay present and start observing it and not getting automatically into the program. And I think what April said in one of our Q&As in the past, it was very powerful when she was talking about what makes a difference in someone's life, that some people can overcome the trauma or addictions and some people can't. And based on the studies, right, April, you quoted, is that many times people that made it was that one person in their lives that made a difference. It was just like one moment. And I think that's the grace that was in the presence of this other person, was, the grace that made a difference. And that's what we need to do, to be that person for somebody else. But, first we have to deal, obviously, with the lesson. And the School of Earth is the toughest one. And we are all master souls, like Kelly says, right? We came here because the School of Earth is tough. And I sometimes forget about this. Like, I want it to be easy, or at least not as tough. But then I have to go back. I chose this. And then remember to laugh and like do the energetic work on, just have some tricks in that moment to pull me out of that addiction to hormones of stress. So having that moment of feeling safe or some kind of comfort, and that can be another person sometimes. We can't sometimes do it for ourselves. So if I am in that state when my mind is racing and I just physically need to get out of it, instead of getting to get the alcohol, drug or something, I sometimes need to call someone, a person that is safe to just talk. And that's, in my life, I called April, I called Poonam. There's that moment that, it's like, I know, I already made a decision. I'm not gonna go and abuse my body further into oblivion of forgetting about for 5 minutes, but I need somebody else's stillness or presence because I just don't have it on my own, and I wish I did. So, but that's also like asking for help, but not getting then attached to it too much, just really working through whatever you need to work through in that moment, but then, rely on your own to start mastering that self-regulation. I mean, everybody gives you tools, what works for them, and you pick and choose what works for you, and you just got to stick with it. And it's, Dr. Joe talks about it sometimes, that moment when it's the hardest, that's the moment when it makes a difference. So that's what I think. And I think that going back
Patricia,
to
have you had that? Have you had that?
What?
Have you had those times?
what times when,
So you said that when this comes and then you feel like you need to call somebody, so you'll talk to Poonam, you'll talk to me, you'll talk to somebody else because you are looking to get their serenity. But have you had that yourself?
I did. Yes,
So
yes.
you don't, I'm not saying don't call. You don't need it from somebody else. You already have it. You just need to connect with it.
Right. You're right.
If you've experienced it, you don't need it from somebody else. It's not like, you can't call somebody. However, you're thinking, I don't have it. Somebody else has got to give it to me. I'm going to talk to them. They're going to give it to me. They're going to bring me back to it. But you already have it because you've already experienced it.
That's a great point. It's a great point. And looking back, I think it comes with a little bit of patience and not trusting that I can go through that transformation on my own. Like almost like I need a witness that can hold my hand. That I'm sorry, I know what's going on. That I can't create that for myself. Like not trusting that I have that.
Mhm.
Oh shit. Sorry, that always comes up. I thought we were talking about children of war.
Did you cry yesterday too?
I did not, right? I
Okay.
did not cry
So
yesterday.
there's no reason to cry today if you didn't cry yesterday.
So you're doing better. You're not crying every day. You're doing better. We're doing better, right? The thing is I want you to know that if you've ever felt that grace, if you've ever felt that serenity, if you have ever felt source, that oneness, if you've ever felt that, it's
Go
still
back.
in you. It's still there. I've had those experiences where I have been where I can feel everything, but yet there's nothing, but it is all. And it's this amazingly peaceful, calm feeling. And the thing is that you can always reconnect with it. The trick is to stop your mind and to stop, to meditate for a minute. Even if you're just standing there and you're at the kitchen counter, just stop, just breathe, just go in and reconnect with that feeling. But you can't let the mind keep running. The mind is going to want to keep running. And you have to say, no, we're looking for that space. I'm looking for that space. Where's that space? And then just keep breathing and keep trying to connect with it. Okay? Because if you've experienced it, it's there. Your cells remember everything. Remember? They're literally recording everything that has ever happened your entire life. So you can reconnect with all peaceful moments. Always.
It's a mastery to in the moment to be rooted and grounded to the reality and honor the life situation and what needs to be done in this dimension, and in the same time knowing that this is like illusion. So really knowing that in order to change the circumstances in your life, you need to be connected and change this from quantum. Because if you keep just trying to fix it on this level, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Just keep
That's
repeating.
actually the next step, Patricia, though. The first step is the self-awareness and learning that you can train the mind and you can train the body. The quantum stuff, that's the next step. We first need to be okay in ourself and in our body. We need to be okay with us. Then we can start messing with the quantum and manifesting all kinds of crazy things. And,
I think I was trying to avoid, working with this mess and just quick fix. Okay, I'm going to connect to quantum, do the magic meditation, and then wake up tomorrow and be a queen of Poland. I don't know.
Well, you could do that. But here's the key. You want to know something I don't do? You want to know something Poonam doesn't do? You want to know why we are okay most of the time? And trust me, it doesn't mean I don't have days. It doesn't mean that I don't ever get angry. I don't ever get upset. I don't ever get sad. But I tell you what we do. Here's your secret. This $1 million secret, Patricia. I told you you're gonna promote my stuff, right? $1 million secret. Here you go. We don't beat ourselves up.
We don't mind what happens.
We do not beat ourselves up at all.
And you don't need anything or anyone to be happy.
Exactly.
And that's when Eckert said it is what it is. I'm like, why does he keep saying that? And then I don't care what situation I'm in. I swear I'm self-sufficient 100%. Maybe too much. Maybe I'm too much the other way.
Maybe.
Maybe
We're too much.
But I mean, I don't care what if I was in a relationship and it ends today, it is what it is. What can you do? You know what I mean? You got to just. But
Yeah.
when you were saying you got to call April and Punian, me personally, I would freak out if I had to call anybody. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? If I seriously had to call someone to keep grounded, I'd be flipping out, you know? But I think it's really like trusting what we're all trying to do here, you know,
Yeah.
really believing what we're talking about. You got to trust that, believing it is what it is, the awareness, you always checking that ego. It's like a system, you know what I mean? I go into analyzing mode when and like April said, we all have bad days. I feel anxiety coming on every once in a while, and boom, there it comes. Being the watcher of my thoughts,
Mhm.
Depression. I don't know what the hell is going on. I never had any kind of depressing feeling 30 years, right? All of a sudden, I'll go through like like a half hour, like what the hell's going on? I don't know if it's what I've been through or whatever, but I'll dive in and go work out, and then boom, I'm out of it. But I won't accept it. You know what I mean? And I hate working out. I hate it. I
It's like a
despise
hit.
it.
You get a hit, energetic hit of something. Maybe it's
It's
not even
dopamine.
yours.
No, Dr. Andrew Huberman said, Dr. Andrew Huberman was talking to David Goggins. If you all want to look up David Goggins, he is incredible as a motivational speaker. David Goggins is a Navy SEAL that was like 300 pounds before he became a Navy SEAL. And then now he does like ultra marathons where he runs 200 miles, which is like a whole day, running for a whole day, or 100 miles. So you're running for 24 or 48 hours nonstop, right? So David Goggins, if he comes across a weak thought that I should not do this, like I hate running, he will go run 20 miles. Just like you said, right? I hate working out. And what Dr. Andrew Huberman said, some kind of, there is some part of the brain that gets strengthened. And
Well, it's a will in the middle of the brain. There's like a will center. If you do something you don't want to
it
do,
will get strengthened.
yeah,
So
it will to live.
everybody who does something that they hate, right? You overcome that. I think it's something called anticular something. There's a
Reticular activating system.
no. It's some anterior something. Even
Oh.
Summer posted like a little reel about it. If I find that reel,
It's definitely the ultimate challenge.
Mhm.
So
And
let me ask you, all of you,
Mhm.
because that's something what came up to me right now. I think I have a belief because that I'm sabotaging and rebelling against things because I don't want to do something I don't want to do because I was in my childhood constantly being, forced to do something I didn't want to do. And if I didn't do it, I was punished for it. So right now, this tool, I don't want to do it to myself what I was, you know, kind of seeing, like it was done to
But
me.
you have to reprogram it and say it this way, Patricia, that when I was a child and my father did something to me and made me like eat, yours was force feeding, right? He force fed me, so I hate being force fed, or I hate being told to do something that I don't want to do. Now look at the rewiring and refiring of that. Oh, I have a resentment within me against being told to do something that I don't like to do. Now I'm going to do something that I don't like to do anyway, out of my own will. Not because I'm being force fed. I'm going to rewire that brain. I'm going to rewire that because I love it. Now I'm going to make myself love it. If I don't like going swimming, I'm not going to go find. I only want that swimming center that's open during summer. And I don't want to be forced to be told that you can go swimming in any gym. I am going to make myself go sign up at a gym that has a heated pool and I can go swim. And look how that's why I'm saying, even the driving, how many times have I told you, you have a fear of driving in strange places. I would override that fear by going to strange places, like put it on a GPS. You get lost, you get lost. You have all the time of the world right now. Just drive someplace that you don't care whether you get there or not. And you come
I've done it. I've done it. Yes, I've done it when you told me. So,
But you have to do it over, not done it once, not done it twice. Do it 100 times until you're rewired that the moment this thing comes, that, oh, I have to go to a strange place, you are not asking anybody for help. You're not asking anybody to say, where do I need to go? You're just putting that address in your phone and trusting the universe that it'll take you there.
She's going out of her comfort zone. That's all, you know. And
Right?
Patricia, I know you're going to hate this one because I hated it too. I was the same way. Life starts at the edge of your comfort zone. I'm like, when I heard that, I wanted to punch the guy in the face. But it's the truth, you know. I mean, you got to get pushed out of that comfort zone. And also, I hate chores.
that's great, but being out on the comfort zone, my fear, flight and fight starts to, activate.
You
And
have to rewire that.
I don't
You have
want
to
to do
rewire.
this.
You have to rewire that.
Well, that's where all this training that we're going through right here comes in,
Mhm.
because it is what it is. And I hated chores when I was a kid, but I do the chores now, and what I get out of it is a beautiful, clean house. You know what I mean? So I'm just, it's when you were saying that, I'm like, okay, well, she hated doing something when she's a kid and it was chores, and what would she do? Not clean her house? So you got to get something out of it. But maybe you took things too personal. Like Eckhart says, we take things personal. I'm telling you, man, I was taking away everything too personal.
No, she's wired that story over and over again with you. That story of a hatred for her father, force feeding her. That's written in her brain cells, right? And what you have to do is, that was my past. I don't need to regurgitate that story. Now I'm going to train myself to like the things that I hate doing, right? I'm going to rewire my brain, just like David Goggins. You hate it? That's a weak thought. You're going to stay here for a while.
Hey, Trish, another
Right.
thing. I'm gonna tell you one more thing. In January, I was so weak for my treatments and all, I couldn't lift 20 pounds. Right? I got this app, so I said, "Oh hell no! I'm switching this shit up." And right now, I got this app, and tonight I did I'm working out 6 days a week now. I'm actually in the best shape of my life right now, and I'm up to 357,000 pounds I've lifted so far.
Wow.
Great. Awesome.
You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? And I never worked out ever. I've been skating by my whole life. It's like, I hit this ultimate low and I'm thinking I'm coming out battling, man. But I'm also battling at all these weird emotions that are coming out, I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm just trying to but I don't dwell on it. I'm just letting it happen.
2 hours of meditation, you bump yourself to 2 hours of meditation.
I can't do 2 hours. I'll try. I try.
Come to the workshop
There's-
because
Yeah.
April said that they're gonna be doing some qigong
I'm
to
I'm
get
signed
Yeah,
up.
we are.
energy moving, because sometimes exactly you don't need to look what exactly happened. You just need to move the energy out of you,
Well,
physically.
and the things that we are teaching will be on, we're all about rewiring the brain, because we had brains that were wired like that. And there's still things in there, I'm sure. We're not perfect. We are human and we have our own journey and our own process. But we had anxiety, we had fear, we had anger, we had those things, and we have rewired those things. We have done that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's why we we want to do the workshops and want to teach, for sure.
Yeah.
But
I'm anxious to kind of get this out there, not to interrupt you, April, but this is part of what's I'm going through, experiencing now, and part of what Patricia's talking about. And it's in that exchange of energy back and forth, the giving and receiving. And for me, it's you're repulsed. I'm just getting it in my mind and clearing it out, getting sober about what this is. But it's when a child is giving, and you give from the heart and you give with outstretched arms, because you're needing at the same time sometimes as a child. And now you're aware of it. You're aware that you were doing that. And at the same time you're giving, the person you're giving to all of a sudden starts to harvest you and take claim to you by commanding you to do more. So you're giving and they're taking. And so you stop giving as a way to control and have power over, saying, no more, I'm not giving, you're taking it from me. I'm not giving it to you. And I'm just coming to terms with that now, how that was again, I talked about like kind of a twisted belief or an upside down association between giving and receiving, and being attracted to, or as a child, you're needing them, you're needing somebody, but then that need that you're giving then turns into abuse. How does that happen? Well, that's right there. It's when the child is giving, the parent can't tell the child's giving, and the child starts taking, expecting, almost demanding automatically that all these things, that you would do freely, give freely, but now they're being taken from you. And right there is a transition. It's where I call it being molested. It's when I feel violated. You're trafficked, because you're not giving your permission to do any of this. People are just telling you got to do it. And that's kind of, it dovetailed with what Patricia was saying. And somewhere in that, there's I'm trying to crack this, but there's an entanglement of just weird associations and beliefs in there somewhere, I think. But this is just,
there is, and especially in the field of like molestation, which is like, that's like a whole nother session, because
We talk about it next time,
yeah,
April,
it
if you want.
confuses the mind. The mind gets confused between love, intimacy, relationships. It's like an instant confusion. So you're correct. You are correct. So,
Thank
but
you.
it's definitely a much longer conversation, but you're correct. So, but
Yeah, I
all
can't
right.
wait. I can't wait for the 17th, man. I'm in.
Awesome. Thank you,
Cool.
everybody.
Okay, let's end the
All right.
session on this. Have a
Night,
fantastic
everybody.
evening. Thank you so much for choosing your divinity over your humanity and being here. We are so grateful, eternally grateful for the love and support. I know Michelle and Summer have been posting online, and others have responded to, Christina and everyone. Much love, many blessings. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.